Welcome to the Arithmetic Zone, and today we're going to cover responsive design, which should be the last part of the HTML and CSS sub-segment of our Introduction to Web Design video. Anyway, I have Visual Studio Code open on the CS folder. We're going to go live to see our website in action. It might take a while. Alright, there we go. Looks decent. Now, I want to see how this looks on other displays, and a way you can do that is actually by using inspect element. So if you're on Chrome, you can just right click and press inspect. And if you check the right hand side, you might be able to actually understand some of this code now, because this is actually all the HTML that we wrote. And if you go to sources right here, you can actually see all of the files that we have, the HTML, CSS, even images, as you saw earlier. But I want to see how this website looks on other displays. If I want to do that, I want to press on this little button right here. And if I do, then you may be prompted with this screen, or it may look like this. But as you can see, this website, it doesn't look good at all on other displays. Check it on an iPhone or Pixel 5 or Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. Everything is smushed together. So today, the goal of this video, we're going to have to fix all of that. So if we want to specify code that only takes effect when our screen is a certain width, you want to go to the CSS document and you want to write @media max-width, and then right here write the maximum number of pixels. I'm going to go with 1030, which is usually the size of a tablet. All that with brackets. Now, to make sure this works, I'm going to specify the body with a background color of red, just so I know that it works. If I save, the background color just turned red. And if I try to change the width of this, and if you look on the top side, once I surpass 1030, changes to beige. You see that change? Because what's in this code, the HTML parts that I specify here have priority over the same segments that I specify above. So that now that we know that this works, we're going to delete this. Save, because we don't want that. Let's go back to the iPhone. We're going to use that as our key. Anyway, you can see it, our whole website looks disgusting. Everything is squished together. So we got to identify what lines of code are causing that. We got to remedy that in our @media segment. So if I look through the code, you can see just even in the body, margin left and margin right is 200 pixels. So let's get rid of that by writing margin 0 pixels, semicolon. Alright, now the title's fixed, the header's mostly fixed, this part is fixed, the copyright is fixed. But you see these two parts? If I press this icon and then click on it, I can actually see what line of code that is on HTML. So it looks like it's a header 2 and it has the class purple. This one also has the class purple. So let's see what's happening in the dot purple area. Sure enough, margin left 200 pixels, margin right 200 pixels. So let's specify along with body that we also don't want any margins for the purple class. So with dot purple, save, and now those are fixed. Alright, but I think everything's like squished right onto that screen. I kind of want to have just a bit of space. So maybe instead of 0 pixels, maybe it should be 10. Responsive design requires a lot of trial and error. It can be a very frustrating process, but that looks much better. But now I want to change the images because they're all in a row, and I have to scroll horizontally to see all of them. And I think scrolling horizontally on a phone when you're on a website, it's not very intuitive. You should only have to scroll vertically. So again, let's identify this div. Looks like I gave it the ID of Flexbox. So what did we do in the hashtag Flexbox? I made it in a row. So let's specify that ID hashtag Flexbox. And instead of having it in a row, let's have the direction be in a column. Let's see how that looks. Alright, now all my images and then also the button, they're all in a column. But you see how they're on the left side? I want them in the middle. Well, if I want them in the middle of the screen, I'd have to change the horizontal position. And because I just turned the main axis into the vertical axis, to refer to the secondary axis, I would have to use align items. So align items and then center. If I save, now it's properly centered. And I also want to give some space in between there. I'd have to specify the images within the flexbox. Let's say margin bottom of 10 pixels. If I save, alright, that seems to do the job. Now let's see what happens if I try to reduce the length of this. Let's put it back in responsive. It could definitely use some work. Oh, as you can see, the issue are these lists I made. Those lists, there's something wrong with them. So when I specified OL and UL, I said margin left of 600 pixels. So let's include those in our 0 pixels area. Save. Now everything is all viewable on one screen. So fix that. Anyway, let's go back to the iPhone. Alright, the lists are not properly centered, but it looks like there's still some issues, specifically with the header. It looks like it's a little too big. And also, this copyright text is too large as well. So let's go back to the website. Let's press on these areas using this icon. This is the footer. I gave it the class of big. And then this one, I didn't give it any class. But what did I did give the ID nav. So let's check nav and the big. Dot big font size 20 pixels. We need to change that. So dot big font size, let's say 10 pixels instead. Alright, well that's pretty small, but honestly, for copyright information, that's fair. Now I want to change the header text. I think that's also a little big. So again, let's go to hashtag nav. Sure enough, font size 20 pixels. So we're going to specify, in addition to dot big hashtag nav for that ID. Well, that's a little too small. And even then, you see how much space there is. That it looks like the font size wasn't even the issue. So you can see how there's a lot of trial and error. I thought it would be the font size would fix it, but it didn't. It looks like the best way to fix this actually is to have this header in a column and not as a row. So once again, let's go back to hashtag nav, and I did put it in flex mode, and the default actually is in a row when you use the display flex feature. So maybe if I put hashtag nav here, it should work. Alright, that seems to do the job, but it looks like there's a lot of padding, so we gotta remove that padding. 20 pixels of padding. I don't want to put it here because then it would also impact Flexbox. So let's just give it a new segment right here. Put the padding to 0 pixels. Alright, that seemed to change the vertical height of the section and not the horizontal like I wanted it to. Like I said, there's a lot of trial and error. Nobody likes having to deal with responsive design. Nobody really likes CSS anyway. It's always just trying to get the computer to do what you want. So let's investigate hashtag nav again and see what we can do. Doesn't really seem like there's anything in here that I can actually address. But one thing I can do is specify the margin left and margin right, because I basically turned everything into margin 0. But instead of using pixels with px, I want to show you something else. I want to show you VW. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure what it stands for. But let's save and see the result. And that actually looks like it does the job. Anyway, VW, one VW is actually relative to about 1% of the current view screen. So the nice thing about VW is that it stays consistent with the display. So if you change the display, VW is also going to change in length. And as you can see, if I try to change the length of this, then that box also changes in length. And if I cross the 1030 threshold, then it changes back to the original design. While the responsive design in the original isn't perfect, as you can see right here, I think I did address my point, and I think I did do a decent job in touching up this website when you're on a phone. So anyway, that's going to do it for this video. And next time, we're actually going to cover some basic JavaScript. It's going to be 2 parts, and those are probably going to be the only videos that I'm going to post next week. So stay tuned until then.